When I was 21, I was scraping by at a small consulting agency. My paycheck barely covered rent, but I kept daydreaming about studying abroad one day. I needed extra income, badly. Around that time, OnlyFans started to boom, and I kept reading stories of ordinary women making good money from home. I wasn't famous or glamorous, but desperation has a funny way of pushing you to experiment. So, late one night I made an account. I recorded a small introduction video, promising friendly interaction and exclusive content. Then, I uploaded a few carefully framed photos. It felt strange, but also liberating. Within a couple of weeks, a handful of people subscribed. $10 a month per person, plus tips. Wasn't life-changing, but it was a start. Every cent went into my travel fund. I swore I'd delete the account once I had enough to buy a ticket overseas. Life at my day job continued normally. I attended meetings, typed reports, and tried to look professional. One afternoon, our firm organized a networking conference. I shook dozens of hands and handed out piles of business cards that listed both my work and personal contact information. By the end of the day, every face blurred together. That night, back home, I logged into my OnlyFans to unwind. A new subscriber appeared, username John Smith. Pretty generic. He messaged right away. $10 a month. Netflix costs more. Totally worth it. Your gorgeous flattery online usually meant someone wanted something, but I replied politely. He asked light questions. If I had a pet, no. A boyfriend, also no. Whether I lived alone. I mentioned a roommate who happened to be away. His tone turned flirtier. You're even prettier than your photos. How about a pouty selfie? I'll tip you $5. I was exhausted from the conference, but easy money is easy money. I fixed my hair, snapped the photo, sent it, and he unlocked it instantly. Then came another request. Your feet in heels, another $5. Weird, but harmless, I thought. He kept tipping, requesting specific angles, poses, outfits. Each time, a small transaction pinged. Then his message changed. Greater than, add me on Instagram. I'll pay $10 just for an ad. Fine. I hadn't used Instagram in months anyway. I accepted his payment and searched his handle. The account had no posts, but the profile ring was glowing. He'd recently added a story. Curiosity 1. I tapped it. The first clip showed my house, filmed from the trees across the street. 2 hours ago. My stomach tightened. Another clip appeared, recorded 5 minutes earlier, closer this time, zooming toward my bedroom window, the only one lit. Then the third story loaded, shot from my front porch, through the glass door, just minutes ago. My phone vibrated with a new message, greater than, let me in. I froze. My heart hammered so loudly, I could hear it in my ears. I locked my bedroom door, dialed 911 with trembling hands, and whispered that someone was outside my house. While I waited for police, new messages popped up. Greater than, come outside or I'll have to come in. The doorknob downstairs rattled violently, then came banging. I screamed for help out the window, but our neighborhood wasn't exactly friendly. No response. Suddenly the noise stopped. For a fleeting moment I hoped he'd left, until I heard tapping on the windows below. then shattering glass. I pressed myself into a corner, shaking. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Thank God. When officers finally arrived, the man was gone. They found the living room window smashed with a rock. I showed them everything. Screenshots, the Instagram handle, the OnlyFans messages. They patrolled the area but found nothing. The account vanished hours later. As I packed an overnight bag under police supervision, dread sank deeper. How had he known where I lived? My personal address wasn't anywhere online. Then I remembered those business cards from the conference. My name, company, and home address printed neatly beneath my email. He must have been one of the men I'd met there. One of the countless faces who'd smiled and said, "Nice to meet you." I gave the investigators every card I'd collected. Nothing came of it. No fingerprints, no leads. John Smith was just a mask behind a throwaway account. He'd asked if I lived alone, if I had a dog. He'd been gathering information, piece by piece. I shut down my OnlyFans account that same night and moved back in with my parents. Even now, I still work for the same consultancy. Every time I attend a meeting shaking a client's hand, part of me wonders if it's him, the man who stood outside my house, phone in hand, whispering, "Let me in." I still have that business card box. One of those names belongs to a monster I accidentally invited into my life. When I first joined OnlyFans, I told myself it was just a temporary thing. I was between jobs, living with my parents, and trying to earn some quick cash without making a scene. I wasn't ashamed, but I knew my family wouldn't approve. So I promised myself to be discreet, post when the house was empty, never tell anyone I knew, and keep my private life separate from my online one. To my surprise, it took off faster than I expected. Within months, I had thousands of followers, and my account was generating more money than I'd ever made in my life. It felt surreal. My fans were mostly polite and supportive, and many seemed genuinely interested in my daily life, not just the pictures. To keep them engaged, I started streaming short, casual videos, shopping trips, coffee runs, even lazy afternoons at home. It was a way to connect, a window into my world, or so I thought. One sunny afternoon, I went to the mall to buy some new outfits. I decided to live stream while I shopped, asking my viewers for opinions on colors and styles. They loved that kind of content. It made them feel included. For about 20 minutes, everything was normal. I laughed, chatted, and walked through the aisles like I was talking to friends. That evening, while checking my messages, I noticed one from a longtime subscriber. "Greater than you lied to us. You never told us you had a boyfriend. I'm done supporting you." The message confused me. I wasn't dating anyone. I replied, "Hey, I'm single. What makes you think otherwise?" His answer made my blood run cold. "Greater than don't play dumb. The guy who's always with you. The one in the green shirt. He was at the store with you today." I frowned. What guy? I hadn't gone with anyone. I replayed the live stream, and there, barely visible behind me, was a tall man in a green shirt, following closely through the aisles. His face wasn't clear at first, but he appeared again and again throughout the video, always lingering a few steps behind me. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe he was just another shopper. Coincidences happen, right? But my subscriber insisted he'd seen that same man before in several of my older videos. I scrolled back through my old streams. There he was, at the park, at the cafe, even at the beach. Always somewhere in the background. Always in that same green shirt, watching. I hadn't noticed him once while filming, and now I couldn't unsee him. The realization hit hard. This man hadn't just stumbled into my videos. He'd been following me for weeks, maybe months. Panic started to crawl under my skin. Still, I didn't tell my parents. My father worked in law enforcement, but how could I admit to him that his daughter was making adult content online? I convinced myself it would stop if I went quiet for a while. So I did. I stopped posting, stopped streaming, and waited. For 2 weeks, everything seemed fine. I didn't see him anywhere. My followers grew restless about my absence, but I felt safer staying silent. Then, one weekend, my parents went out of town for a few days. I finally had the house to myself again and decided to take new photos to keep my account alive. I cooked dinner, opened the kitchen window to clear the air, and went upstairs to shoot. After uploading the pictures, I decided to do a quick live session to reconnect with my followers. The mood was light. I joked, answered comments, and apologized for disappearing. After a few minutes, I felt thirsty and went downstairs with my phone to grab water, still streaming, still chatting. Then a new comment popped up, greater than, "Who's that man at your window?" At first, I thought it was a joke, but when I looked at my phone screen, I saw it, a blurry reflection behind me, a pale face pressed against the glass. My heart stopped. I turned around slowly, and there he was, the same tall man in the same green shirt, standing outside, peering into my living room with a twisted grin. I screamed and bolted upstairs, locking myself in the bathroom. My hand shook as I called my parents. My dad told me to stay calm, that they were calling the police and driving home immediately. He told me to move to the attic if I could. When I cracked open the bathroom door, I heard movement downstairs, soft footsteps, the faint creak of the floorboards. That's when I remembered the open kitchen window. He was inside. He began calling out, voice dripping with amusement. "Mellow Cat, where are you?" Hearing my OnlyFans username come from his mouth made me sick. He'd been watching me, memorizing every detail. I ran into my parents' bedroom and slammed the door shut, just as his footsteps thundered up the stairs. He threw himself against the door, shouting obscenities. I yanked down the attic ladder, climbed up, and pulled it shut behind me seconds before he burst through. I crouched there in the darkness. Hands over my mouth, trying not to make a sound while he tore the room apart below. Glass shattered, furniture crashed, and his rage echoed through the house. Then, silence. Minutes later, sirens wailed outside. I didn't move until I heard my dad shouting my name. The police swept the house, but the man had already vanished. The only evidence left behind was strange. No fingerprints, no footprints, but the investigators found faint chemical traces on the door handle. Later, they told us it was chloroform residue. My stomach turned. The man had broken in planning to knock me out, maybe worse. The only thing missing from the house was my laptop, which held unreleased photos. He hadn't gotten me, but he'd taken a piece of me anyway. I deleted my account that night without saying goodbye to anyone. My parents finally learned everything, and I moved in with my sister in another city. I changed my number, avoided social media, and tried to start over. But sometimes, late at night, I still wake up to the sound of creaking wood, convinced someone's standing just outside the window, wearing a green shirt, waiting for me to go live again. When I first moved into the old apartment, I didn't think much of it. The walls were cracked, the floorboards creaked, and the air smelled faintly of dust and forgotten time. It wasn't perfect, but for someone like me, a quiet art student barely surviving on part-time jobs, it was home enough. The only thing that stood out was an antique mirror in the living room. It was tall, framed in tarnished gold, and leaned slightly against the wall as if it had been watching the room for years. The landlord told me not to move it. "People say it's bad luck," he said with a shrug. "But if you don't bother it, it won't bother you." I laughed it off. Ghost stories were just stories, right? That first evening, after unpacking boxes, I wiped the mirror with an old cloth. A faint chill ran down my spine as I did. The glass wasn't smooth. It felt uneven, almost like something pulsed beneath its surface. When I looked at my reflection, for a fraction of a second, I thought I saw someone else standing beside me. A tall, thin shadow. Then it was gone. Days passed, and life settled into a strange calm. The apartment was quiet, sometimes too quiet. My reflection, though, began to disturb me. Every night before bed, I'd catch something slightly wrong. A blink delayed, a smile that didn't quite match mine. Sometimes I swore my reflection looked tired, older. One morning, while painting, I noticed something strange. A faint handprint appeared on the mirror, inside the glass. It looked pressed from within. I stared for a long time, my chest tightening. The fingers were long, thin, and left small streaks, as if the person behind the glass was sliding downward. When I blinked, the handprint was gone. That night I dreamed of water, endless, dark water. A woman with the soaked hair stood behind me in the reflection. She whispered something soft, like a prayer. I woke up gasping for air, the room colder than before. The next few nights I tried ignoring it. I told myself I was just overworked. But then came the whispers. At first they were faint, like a breeze slipping under the door. Then clearer. Words formed. "I remember you." I froze. The voice came from the mirror. I stood there for minutes, staring into my reflection. Everything looked normal, but my own eyes didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like someone else was behind them, watching me. The next day, I covered the mirror with a white sheet. For 3 nights, peace returned. The apartment felt lighter. I even slept through the night. But on the 4th night, something moved under the cloth. I heard the soft dragging of fingers across the glass. Then a whisper, closer this time. You shouldn't have left me. My breath caught. I pulled the sheet away. The mirror was fogged from the inside, as though something had exhaled within it. Then I saw her, a woman's face, pale as bone, eyes hollow and black. Her mouth trembled as if she was trying to speak. When I turned my head, she didn't move. She just stared straight at me. I ran out of the apartment and stayed at a friend's place that night. I didn't tell her what really happened, just that the place creeped me out. She laughed and said, "You've been watching too many horror movies." But I couldn't laugh. That whisper still echoed in my mind. The next morning, I went back to pack my things. The apartment was silent, but the air felt thick, almost alive. The mirror was uncovered again. I hadn't touched it. The surface shimmered like water. I should have left, but curiosity won. I stepped closer. My reflection didn't follow. It stood still, staring back with a hollow smile. Then the glass rippled. A pale hand reached out. Before I could move, it grabbed my wrist, cold, firm, real. I screamed and yanked back. The mirror cracked, but the hand didn't let go until I pulled with everything I had. When it finally released, I fell to the floor. The mirror was shattered, yet my reflection in each broken piece was still moving. Each shard showed me something different. In one, I was crying. In another, screaming. In another, smiling eerily. And in one piece, I wasn't there at all. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the street outside. My wrist burned with frostbite where that hand had grabbed me. I left everything behind. A week later, the landlord called. "You left your mirror," he said. "I don't want it," I whispered. There was silence. Then he said something that made my blood turn cold. That mirror belonged to a woman who used to live there. She vanished 30 years ago. People say she still looks for someone. It's been months since then. I live miles away, in a brighter city with no antique furniture, no mirrors in my apartment at all. But sometimes, when I pass by a shop window, or the reflection in a puddle, I see her face behind mine. Wet hair, dark eyes, whispering softly through the glass. "I remember you,"